Hi there, I'm the MCU Guy, and welcome to the MCU Podcast. This episode, we are talking about WandaVision and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because we've already covered all the MCU news for the month, so we're going to cover all the news in the next month's episode. That's a way away, so you don't have to worry about that. But for this episode, we're just covering the two Disney Plus shows, WandaVision that's just been, and the Falcon and Winter Soldier just coming out next week. So I am joined in this episode by returning guest of the pod, Michael Coffin, the AvengNerd. Hi, Michael. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you back. I do believe you have a new podcast.
I do,
and I'm pretty sure it's called The Nerd Rebellion. Am I right?
It sure is.
Yeah. I listened to your WandaVision episode 8 and 9 thing today when I was driving in my car. So I was like, yeah, I'm glad to see you're dipping your toes into the podcast scene after being a Twitch superstar.
I wouldn't call it that, but I appreciate the kind words. Yeah, it's been good. New to it, so like we had done a bunch of recordings that like the audio just didn't rip or cut out right. So it was the first one that we got recorded right, and yeah, well, there's a lot of kinks to work out and things to work on, but I'm taking notes. From you.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, I'll be taking Twitch notes from you because I finally jumped onto the Twitch stream myself, and I believe we've got something coming up soon as well between me and you. We're gonna get on there and do something together, aren't we?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful stuff. We're also joined by fellow TTYL network creator, Mr. James Matthews from ColeyMania Podcast. Hello, James.
Can we talk about the grappling now?
Yeah, all right. Grappling.
We'll talk about grappling with superheroes. Yeah, hi. I was just joking.
Hello.
That's funny, wasn't it? Yeah, no, hi. Thanks for having me on. That's all.
It's a pleasure.
See you.
Right, to the bit. Bye.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the kid. Yeah, well, it's a pleasure to have you on, James. Because you are a new guest to the podcast, you have to do you have to go through a rite of passage, and that is you have to tell us about your earliest MCU memory and your favorite MCU film. So, do you have them for me, James?
So, earliest MCU would probably be watching like Iron Man when it originally came out. Obviously, the first Marvel memory is like being a kid and watching the Spider-Man cartoons that were on, like, I think Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network, wherever they were on. Fox TV probably back in the day. This will mean nothing to American people. These were all really, really bad channels that we had in the UK in the late 90s. And they all had these cartoons on. But the first proper MCU memory will probably be watching Iron Man 1, maybe Iron Man 2. I'm not entirely sure. Probably Iron Man 1, though.
Nice. I'm pretty sure that... do you remember... Oh, sorry, this is probably what makes sense to you again, Michael. Do you remember when you were
American listeners, stop listening now.
Yeah, just pause for a second. We'll come back in a second.
Yeah.
In regards to the Spider-Man cartoon, I remember in the school half term that it was like a rotation between one day you'd have Spider-Man and one day you'd have X-Men. So it'd be one of the two every other day, and that was
I do vaguely remember
my childhood. It was so good.
I remember the X-Men cartoons.
And then they threw Pokemon there as well at some point.
Yeah, I was more the Pokemon guy than the X-Men kind of one. But yeah, that's
Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh. The alternate thing. Yeah.
I've definitely not watched them during the English lockdown on Amazon Prime. All 5 seasons are on there. Just gonna let anybody else know that if they're interested.
Not Yu-Gi-Oh. Couldn't get behind Yu-Gi-Oh.
Whoa, Egyptian god cards.
All about Pokemon.
All about it.
So you know how like in Doctor Strange when like he gets touched and then like he like goes through all these like different dimensions and everything when he first was learning about the Sorcerer Supreme, like the first time he sees her. That's what happens to me whenever I hear the Amazing Spider-Man TV show and the X-Men theme song, like electric guitar riffs. It's just like I'm going back to my parents' living room.
It's an absolute sick tune. That I'd prefer the X-Men one is good as well. Although I weren't a massive fan of the X-Men one, I preferred the Spider-Man over the X-Men one. But anyway, I digress. Right, James, favorite MCU film? Go. Thor Ragnarok.
Just because it's. Can we swear?
Of course you can. You can say
fucking hilarious. It's fucking hilarious. Some of the moments in it are brilliant. And the fact that we get a proper like Thor character, like you actually get to see Chris Hemsworth come out as a proper actor. He comes across as like a real human rather than I thought I smashed me strong. Like the first two films. It's just really, dull. I don't like the first two Thor films. I'm not a huge fan. And there's some really cool bits. Yeah, it's just really, really cool bits in it. So that's why that's my favorite. I was very close to saying Infinity War as well, but I'm going to go with Thor because I think one of the Avengers films is a bit of a cop out because it's like, all the superheroes, but no.
Yeah, I get that, but also at the same time, Infinity War is the best film. So because how are you supposed to justify it not being? You've got pretty much every single MCU character we've had throughout the last 11 years in one film, all sharing the screen and all like excelling and all being amazing in it, and like no one really taking a back seat. I'm not going to go into why Infinity War is better than Endgame, but that's for another time. I think I've already covered that in my breakdown.
It's definitely
a breakdown episode.
That's all right. It's definitely, Endgame has the best moment in MCU when they all join together and they all come through the Doctor Strange portals and they all come together.
Check out that T-shirt that Michael's wearing there. Hey, what's that T-shirt you got there?
Oh, I think it's some guy named ThatMCU Guy. Oh, that's you. That's you. That's you.
I feel like you might have wore that just for the occasion.
I did.
Yeah, mine's in the wash.
Yeah, so was Michael's, but he decided to get his out.
I finished it up. It was actually dry. It was actually dry, and I needed to just unfold it.
See. There we go. He thought ahead there, James.
That's where I've been going wrong. I've never folded mine. That's where I've always gone wrong.
Right. So, well, you've welcome, James. You're really allowed to come in because you've answered them questions. So, welcome. We're glad to have you. But we're not here to talk about you, James. Unfortunately, we're here to talk about two little MCU shows called WandaVision and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So let's get to talking about WandaVision. So it finished last week. I'm not sure about you guys, but I feel like there's a big WandaVision shaped hole in my life currently. I watched the making of last night, which was brilliant, by the way. So good. Like it gave me like another level of appreciation for how good the show was. And didn't realize how much they put into like the first two episodes with the live studio audience, and because I mean that mustn't have been cheap at all to kind of pull all that off. And fair play to Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany, the rest of the cast for doing that, because obviously a lot of them probably haven't done that kind of format or have done that kind of format of show ever. Like I know they're probably classically trained actors and stuff, but you're not going to be doing that kind of stuff on a weekly basis, are you? So I thought it was really, really impressive. And yeah, it's just good to see how much went into the process of it. What do you reckon? Would you both see it?
I have, but I've already talked quite a bit, so I'll let our colleague go.
No, you're good, man. You started first. Go
I thought it was really cool. I said to Matt earlier today when we were speaking that I thought it concentrated a lot on the first two episodes, which, thinking about it, and Matt correctly told me, it does make sense because that's where a lot of the production needed to go in, and a lot of the research definitely had to go in. And also Vision was blue, which really freaked me out. That blew my mind. I thought yeah. So I actually didn't even do like. Yeah, I did that on purpose. I'm going to tell everybody I did that on purpose. I thought it was quite interesting how it was made.
Yeah, what do you reckon, Mike?
I didn't get to watch it actually. I forgot to. 100%.
So that's why I went first.
Yeah. I know. I was at work last night. I'm switching from night to the day shift, so I literally just spaced it when I was at work. Like sometimes we have downtime between calls and stuff that we go on, but I literally just forgot to watch it. So I can't say I have much of an opinion on it, but from what I've heard on like my end of things is that this show had the highest budget of all the Disney Plus series. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's what I heard. And then I heard things like throughout, like when we were recording the Nerd Rebellion podcast, that we were like hearing that like Dick Van Dyke came on set and like helped kind of like guide the first 3 episodes because he was so used to that style of how they filmed back then with a live studio audience and stuff. So I just knowing that, it's like you knew how much they cared about this project. So yeah, I loved the show. I thought from what I've seen and what I've heard, I thought the behind the scenes stuff was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I urge you to watch it. So when you get a free bit of time, it's only like, I think it's about 54 minutes long. Definitely something to watch for help you appreciate the show a bit more. I personally, I think it. I think if people didn't really like the show as much as they probably would have thought they were going to do, but then watch that, it would probably give them a better understanding of why they went in that direction with the show. But it's really good. Now let's actually speak about WandaVision. So I want to know what your thoughts about the show were overall. So Michael, why don't you take us?
Sure. I thought it was great. I thought that and the reason I think that too was because all fan theories and everything aside, I think that the reason why the show was great was because when I think last time we talked, Matt, we were talking about how this is the one project that I was not excited for because I was like, well, if this and this and this has happened, well, then why would I be excited for this project? I thought this was going to be the one project out of everything that got announced that wasn't going to have much purpose other than adding character depth, but it turned out to be a huge game changer of a show, and the story of it, it's going to expand into everything else, just like other shows, like some of the other movies have done. It's a game changer of a project, and I think it's probably my top 5 of all the MCU stuff after watching it.
Wow, that's a bold statement. You know what? And I can completely understand why you'd be putting it up there as in your rankings, because obviously I've got excited about the fact that we were going to get any sort of new MCU content, because Jesus Christ, we've been starved of that content for so long. And then obviously with the reshuffle of all the of Phase 4, and that this was coming at the start, I knew there was going to be a lot riding on it, and I knew it was going to be a very bold thing. And I think that they probably would have had to change a lot of stuff in the story. And they do actually touch on it in the documentary, by the way, about how the pandemic really affected the way they were going with the show. And I don't know, I think even after the first episode, I was kind of blown away at how exciting the prospect of this was, because you go into it with blind eyes. It's the start of a new phase, so you don't know exactly what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to show up. You don't know what implications it has going forward in the MCU. But I was just excited about it being something completely different, because obviously the MCU can get criticized sometimes for being a bit one-dimensional and just not really altering any sort of creative, not breaking it down any creative barriers, which is fine, because at the end of the day, that's why we love the MCU, because it's familiar and it's given us all the stuff that we like. But I think this probably divided fans, and it probably did up until about episode 4 or 5, didn't it? Because people just were like, "Whoa, what's this? I don't understand it." And the amount of I'm going to say shit that I saw online from fans saying, "This is ridiculous, this is boring. Why would anyone watch this?" And I'm like, you're clearly not getting the point of why they're doing this. And if you stick with it, it's obviously going to pay off. And boy, did it pay off. I mean, it did kind of come more MCU-ish by the final few episodes, but I was just blown away by the originality of it. And then obviously, like you said, the character progression was there, and the setting up for the future of the MCU again is there. So I thought it was fantastic. What about you, James?
I'm actually one of those people who watched the first couple of episodes and thought, "Oh, what is this? What's going on?" I obviously didn't give it. I'd literally watched the first 2 episodes and was like, "Right, I don't know what this is," and already I'm a bit confused. So I gave it time to breathe, and then by the time it got to the end of, I get the episodes mixed up in my mind. Basically, episode 3 or 4, where we see more of the outside of the hex, and that's when I was like, "Oh, okay, now I get what this is, why we're having this." And after that, I think it's great. I thought that the ending to all really sets up a lot of Phase 4. And I think you said you wanted to mention this later. Did the fans affect the show? And we were saying about all these theories. I'm kind of glad that a lot of the theories didn't happen, because I think had Marvel, for want of a better term, blown their load this early at the first part of Phase 4, how much else would we have had? what else could have really happened. So I think it did very well setting up the phase. And so far, it's my favorite MCU TV show.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Again, cool. I'm glad that you're in the opinion that it is up there with one of the best. And since you've mentioned about fans ruining the show, and a lot has been said online about this. And to be fair, if anyone out there is fans of New Rockstars or the Cosmic Wonder or any of these bigger YouTube channels, they all kind of saying the same thing. And I think we're all in an agreement that we kind of ruined it for ourselves, didn't we? By just getting overhyped about everything about it and then throwing too much speculation into everything, and Mephisto being everybody and everything, because I think we all really wanted Mephisto, but also at the same time, you're completely right, James. Imagine if we would have got Mephisto in WandaVision.
It had showed up in like episode 7 or 8, and it was a 9-episode series. So what would have happened after that? Well, obviously, surely Mephisto is big enough of a character to carry on in the MCU for possibly later on in Phase 4, maybe going into a different phase. And I just think doing it this early would have really messed things up because there's so much more to tell. Obviously, we've still got Agnes, who kind of like says you don't know what you're unleashing. We don't know what she's on about there. That could be about the multiverse. That could be about Mephisto. It could be about all kinds of things. So there is still ways for it to go back. But I think you're right where fans did ruin it a little bit. But there was on the new Rockstars who they did the reaction. The lady who was doing it with Voss said that one of them was saying, "I'm glad it wasn't Mephisto in the end, because otherwise, what would the point of Agnes been? Agnes would have just been there just to set things up. So really, not having that extra character to bring in so late has probably done the show and given us a new villain in Agnes who can come back at any time, really. And I think it's just done the MCU better than what everybody thought was going to happen. We thought it was going to be the devil.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you guys if you've seen this, by the way, but on Kevin Smith and Fat Man, I don't know if you guys know who Kevin Smith is, but the Fat Man podcast, they had the director of WandaVision on there, and he was kind of talking about what they wanted to do and all the changes they made. And the rabbit Senor Scratchy was supposed to be a devil character that they end up editing out and cutting him out, the same way they did with Doctor Strange's cameo, because I believe Benedict Cumberbatch actually filmed some scenes and then they just took it out. So that's obviously the plan they had going forward, but they've probably been told by Kevin Feige or possibly some writers of some other shows about how they want to introduce Mephisto into the MCU, and they might have, like you said, blown the load a bit too early with that, and that's probably the reason why they didn't actually include that cameo. And I think it would have been a massive, like you said, it might have been a massive tarnish on Agnes's character, because I think she's going to have a big part going forward. So since we're talking about Agnes, Michael, what did you think about Agnes's reveal? Like, I think we all kind of saw it coming, but how did you feel about Agnes's reveal? How did you think it went down?
So I'll answer that in two shakes here. One thing I wanted to say about the fans in the show real quick was the first thing. I think there's fans that can ruin a show, and there's fans that can just enjoy a show and like have fan theories too. Like we talked about like the first 3 episodes and how some people were like, well, what is this? I remember literally on one social media post, I said, we'll see you by episode 4 or 5. like when they were tuning it, they were like, this is dumb. Like after 1 or 2, I was like, we'll see you in 4 or 5. And then that, they'll get caught up. It's 30 minutes episode, whatever. But I think that like with fans reading the show, I think the only thing that could ruin the show was you rooting it for yourself by like getting your fan theories so high up here to this level where like if that doesn't happen, then it's easy to get frustrated. And that's kind of sad, because like we've seen what Marvel does with their projects, and look at the whole Thanos build to Endgame and Infinity War. I mean, you're talking 20 films. Like it didn't happen over one project, So I think that's my only take on that. On the Agnes twist, yeah, I think I definitely saw. I saw it coming. I've read the House of M comic, and I've read some Scarlet Witch stuff where you're like, I wonder if this is Agatha Harkness. Like you just kind of like had the idea of like Agnes, Agatha Harkness. Like I feel like Kevin Feige's trying to be tricky, but like I also think that part of him enjoys like trying to set stuff up like that up so that us as fans can just be like, I know what you're doing. And like, like and he's like, I know, but like don't spoil it, because he knows that like real diehard Marvel fans are not going to spoil it for the person to their left if they don't know what's going on, and I'd be smiling from ear to ear on like certain episodes where Agnes would show up from time to time with exactly what they needed. And I kept saying that in all the episodes, and then Vision said it in one of the episodes, and my girlfriend looked at me and she's like, how do you know that? How do you know? Like, how did you know that? I'm like, I just guess, like, but I would never say it. I would never spoil that for somebody. So I think it was done really cool. And the way they did it with it was Agatha all along song was even just like the icing on the cake.
That is a banger.
It's
a great tune.
Funny way to do it. Like I was like, that's awesome. And they showed everything. And like, I thought it was really funny because I saw a meme the other day when she said, and I killed Sparky too. And then like, so she just confessed to killing a dog, and then everybody like on social media was upset. And then somebody made a meme with like Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool saying like, that's so dark, are you part of the DC universe? It was pretty good.
Oh man, the memes that have come from that show so far have been phenomenal. Yeah. But yeah, it's the Agatha thing for me was obviously we knew it was going to happen, but what I think what they did really cleverly was give you so many like red herrings and try and throw you completely off the scent that it was her, because she's so much of an ally going through it. And then you have like Evan Peters show up and you're like, oh, what's going on? And then you kind of forget that she's going to be the bad guy, and then you think, oh, is Wanda the villain herself? And then it just builds up, and then boom, it happens. And yeah, like I said, we get the amazing song, we get the clips of all the stuff that she's been behind, and yeah, it was like a relief when it happened for me. I was like, oh, well, yeah, we knew this was going to happen, but it's kind of nice to kind of watch it all like play out now. And yeah, it was done so well. What about you, James? What did you think?
That obviously, I've not really ever read many of the comics, so there's very little knowledge that I have of like the House of M stuff and how like the role that Agatha plays in all of this. But I thought the reveal was really, really cool. Where they said, there's something about the bug on the window, and then how the bug like moves towards the cellar, and that's how she knows to go down. And then that's the same bug that she then feeds to the rabbit and stuff. I just thought it was really cool how it all like fed into one, and then how obviously she had herself in like in the runes, and it almost like as if that runes wasn't part of the hex, because obviously the camera angle changed, so it changed to like the sitcom way, and it changed to like the proper 16:9. And it looked it looked and felt very different. Like it almost felt like, right, we've done with all the like what WandaVision is. This is now the proper Marvel going forward. That was like the signifying of a big change in the program and the big tone change and what was actually happening. Because that was the end of episode 7 once when we found out it was her. Yeah. So episode 8 is the flashback, and then 9 was obviously the finale. So I think it just did really well of like kind of rounding off all the sitcoms and going into it and going, right, this is how we're moving forward now. We've now set your villain up, and you've got an hour and a half of actually discovering what Agnes is like. So I thought the reveal of it and like the slow build was very good. Obviously, it was obvious early on, I think, that Agnes had a big part in it, because she was the only one that wasn't identified when they were doing in the sword tents. I can't think of the name of tents. Good tents. And they were the only one that they couldn't identify. So that was kind of a big push, but I thought it was really well done. And like I said, I'm just glad it ended up being her, because she was there throughout the whole of it. And had they just thrown in somebody else, I think it really demeaned the character.
Yeah, it's I think it was, if you think about the way that the show's structured, and like obviously the slow build, like you said, if how disappointing would it have been if you would have done like halfway through the show you get the reveal of the bad guy, and then we've got 5 episodes of. There were no way they could have stretched out them 2 episodes, and obviously what Agnes actually wanted out of it. Because if you really think about it, what Agnes wanted as part of her evil plan wasn't actually like a massive thing. So it's not something that she's gonna. Obviously, it's the reveal of Scarlet Witch, but it's if she'd have accomplished a plan, like what would have actually happened? They don't really talk about what happened, did they? So again, it's not that it's a flimsy bad guy. It's because she's obviously a great bad guy, but the story wasn't strong enough for it to be brought in earlier and have play out as a massive thing, unless you do have the introduction of Doctor Strange come in and help out, and it's kind of this power struggle between her and Scarlet Witch, but then Doctor Strange has to come and help her. So that's the only way I think they could have got around that. But yeah, it's I'm so glad they kind of waited that long and then had the final 2 episodes, like I said, to let the story flesh itself out. Should we talk about Vision and the twist for this? Because
the greatest cameo in MCU history.
Yeah. So first of all, I have to eat my words here, because I said to Caitlin, one of our past guests, like 2 episodes ago, I said that Vision would not ever return, and this is it for Paul Bettany in the MCU, and that's it. Vision's done now. There's no way that he's coming out of this story alive. How wrong was I? And when he showed up at the end of that post-credit scene, I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, because not there's anything wrong with Vision. He's a great character, and I love Paul Bettany, also a great actor. But is there any real need for Vision going forward? That would have been a nice way to have Vision leave the MCU and that be it and be done with it. And Scarlet Witch kind of separate herself from him, because, well, they're separated now anyway, aren't they? Because he's obviously White Vision. So, well, I don't know what storyline they're going to go down with that route. So, I don't know. I was a bit frustrated with it, and obviously it set up the finale, which is fine. But apart from that, we're overly impressed. What did you think about it, James?
Like you said, it was. I just think, was it necessary to have Vision come back? It feels like Vision's story could have been nicely wrapped up, and obviously with the post credit scene of her being able to still hear her children, does that mean that the original Vision is still in another universe somewhere with the children? So was it necessary for White Vision to exist and for him to have the memories put into him and realize what was going on? Because he just, for want of a better term, he just fucked off. He just, I've got memories, I'm off now, that's it. And it's kind of like, well,
he left the other one on, that's why.
Yeah, no, it's I've the chicken's still here, I've got to get back, kind of thing. Like, what, like, why? I think it could have, again, this is literally the first thing of Phase 4, so we don't know what's going to happen. But it just seemed very strange that Vision was the one who. Why didn't he stay as well? If you remember who Scarlet Witch was, why didn't he stay and help Wanda? If he knew what was going on, why didn't he just go, oh, thanks for the memories, not real Vision, I'm off. Go and help Wanda, and then we'll talk about it. Don't just fuck off.
Yeah, like, have you not seen Agnes? She's well hard.
Yeah, Agnes is kicking fuck out. But look at her, she's exhausted.
She's old. This
is why I do a wrestling podcast, by the way, because I just go on random rambles. Michael, you talk now. Yeah, I'll stop talking.
Yeah, Michael, you tell us about your thoughts on.
I'm gonna come from an opposite spectrum on this here. So
most people do with my opinions, mate. I won't worry about it.
I went from not really caring about Vision, like all the way back from when he first showed up to. I liked, I think I'll try and word it right quick here. I didn't like Vision as a character starting from Age of Ultron, because I think that a lot of people that are MCU fans didn't like that movie, right? Like it was very high expectations, and I still think to this day it didn't meet them. But I think what the MCU does is super special and what Kevin Feige does with this project is super special in terms of adding more value to previous projects with current projects. Like one example that I can give of that is my personal favorite movie. It's Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And the reason why that one, I think, it's such a huge turning point is it changes the course of everything going forward. But then if you do a rewatch now, you'll see in the first Avengers movie by itself when Cap starts searching around the Shield helicarrier when everyone else is kind of bickering and arguing a little bit. Cap goes and looks. He's like, something's not right here. So he goes and he finds the Hydra weapons. And now you're like, that moment in that movie has so much more weight for his character going into his trilogy of movies. And I think that's what this show has done for a lot of fans, including myself, for movies like Age of Ultron that maybe weren't like your favorite project that got done. Like, because in all the rewatches, you know that there's movies that you hit and you're like, oh, I don't want to watch this one again. But like ultimately, they're all really fun to watch as you keep going. So with Vision coming back, and like getting as much character depth as he did in this show, I wanted more of him, and I'm glad we got more of him. I never thought I would say that. And the way they did it was so unique and creative, like where obviously Wanda brings like the memory portion of him back. But kudos to Paul Bettany for winning me over and winning a lot of fans over on just his performance in the show, because I mean, the lines that he was given and how he had to deliver those in certain ways for them to mean so much more. Like, what is grief without love persevering? And when he says, I'm probably going to get the quote wrong, but like it's at the end where he says, I've been a voice without a body. And I can't remember the rest of the quote, but he says, I wonder what I'm come back as next. And I just love the fact that when he is facing off with White Vision, I caught a couple things when I was watching that where he actually like gets his Mind Stone grabbed in the fight, and he's like, "Can we settle this cordially?" And then he gets the stone grabbed from his head just the way Thanos did it, and then he like goes invisible and like goes through him again. And he's like, "I'll take that as a no." He's like, "That's not happening twice to me here."
He learned his mistake the first time.
Yeah, he's had it grabbed how many times, but when they did the Ship of Theseus moment, what I thought was really cool about that is the perspective they're trying to give you of, okay, well, if I can put these memories back into this body, is it still the same vision? Because obviously Tyler had his own quote unquote vision of what he wanted to do with that body, when Wanda just wanted to bury him. So getting him back in the way they got him back, I thought it was really cool. And on him flying off and like being like, well, I got my memories back. See you later. Like, I actually think he's going somewhere. And I think he's going somewhere because he was told to go somewhere by the memory of Vision. I think he is going to Shuri.
Really?
I think he's going to Wakanda. I think he was told to go to Wakanda because if you watch that memory sequence, that is the last place that he was when his Mind Stone got ripped out. And Shuri was the only person that ever got close enough before Thanos showed up and his army showed up to actually get that Mind Stone out of him and keep the good parts of him around. So I think that there is a purpose for him just leaving. I think that he is like an urgent need to go to Shuri and figure out what's next.
So do you reckon that's going to be something that's going to happen in Black Panther 2?
Yeah, I do. I think that he's going to be in Black Panther 2.
That. You know what? That would make a lot of sense, and I think your theory is fantastic, by the way. And that would be so weird to have Vision turn up in a Black Panther storyline that's obviously going to be centered around Wakanda, because like, obviously you get Vision in Infinity War in Wakanda, but like not really. You don't really get a lot of the interaction that he has with people. So again, it's such a bizarre thing to put in there, but could really, really work and could like, I don't know. It's again, it's a very fresh idea that would have a lot of would have a lot of legs going forward and would offer something completely different. So that's really cool and would make total sense. Because why? Yeah, imagine if that's what Vision's told Vision to do. So the Hex Vision's told White Vision to go there because obviously that's your last memory. Go see this lass. She'll sort you out. She'll give you your colour back.
Mm-hmm.
You never know.
Blue.
yeah. She'll give you the blue. Right. What I want to do is I don't want to fixate too much on some of the other bits that we've got in the show, so I'm going to kind of lump them together.
Sure.
But I don't think there's really much point of talking about Wanda being the Scarlet Witch because I think everyone knew that was going to happen. Like, I don't think it was any sort of big mystery that she was going to become the Scarlet Witch because they're just setting up the House of M, and we know that's going to happen. So I just want to touch on a few little things. Monica Rambeau's transformation into Photon, Evan Peters, and the little loose ends of the show. Right. So we don't know who Jimmy Woo's because I'm wearing my Jimmy Woo shirt. Jimmy Woo's missing person. Like, who is it? Who is the missing person? The kids. I'm assuming they're going to come back. Do we think they're going to come back? And Evan Peters is Quicksilver. Does it mean anything? Does it mean anything then, or not? So basically, let's talk about the loose ends. Let's talk about Monica Rambeau. And let's talk about Evan Peters. So James, just give us your opinions on them.
The Monica thing's pretty cool. I know very little about the character that she's going to become, so I will skip over that and not make a twat out of myself. The Evan Peters thing, I think, is great. I don't think he's going to be Quicksilver. I think that they're going to carry on with the character, the Ralph Boner, which, I can't believe they paid all that money. They bought Fox for a Boner joke. It's just genius. But apparently he's been cast, or I saw somewhere that he's cast for Doctor Strange. Apparently he's going to. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not. I just kind of saw like something on a social media site that's known for lying. Never mind. And what was the other thing?
So Monica Rambeau, Evan Peters, and the loose ends. The loose ends.
The missing person. I thought the missing person was going to end up being Ralph, to be honest. But
well, I think the best way of explaining that is if Ralph was the missing person, I don't think he'd be an actor because like one of the whole things about being in Wimp section is you're not supposed to be letting people know who you are and what you're doing. You're supposed to be keeping a low profile. So it'd be very, very stupid if he was the missing person. And it looks like he's been there for a while when you look at them thingy bills, the utility bills. So I'm not sure if it was him.
Although I'm not entirely sure who it could be. I don't know. Is it going to lead to something else with him? If it's true that he is in Doctor Strange, then I think we'll find out more. But again, I don't know if that's official or not. Call me out, call me a liar if you want. That's fine. And as to do with the kids, I think the kids are going to be back. I think that's definitely going to happen in Doctor Strange 2. I think that's where it's all going to go to tits because she's going to rip open the multiverse and try and bring her kids, and Doctor Strange is going to have to go and help to resolve this. Whether or not that means that Scarlet Witch turns into one of the bad people, sick of saying bad guys, or it just sounds so kiddish. But yeah, whether we end up being the Scarlet Witch is like one of the bad people in it. I don't know.
So you said that Scarlet Witch is going to be the villain, and that's the reason why we're going to get the kids back. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because she's just going to rip everything open and not listen to Doctor Strange. Going to say, no, you can't do that. Bad things will happen. Look, this book says, and she's going to go, I don't care about your books.
Yeah, well, fair enough. Michael?
So yeah, I'll speed run through those two. So Monica's transformation, we talked about that with Tyler the Kid, and me, like I still think there's a high possibility they're going to call her Photon in memory of her in memory of her mother, because obviously it was Maria Photon Rambeau. And now Monica, I feel like they can call her Photon, but she goes by another name at some point in time called Spectrum, and I thought that, and Tyler thinks that that's actually a high possibility for her to be called Spectrum instead, because when she was going through the hex in the walls, there was like 4 versions of herself. So it's different spectrums of herself is what Tyler was going with. But I'm still thinking she's gonna be Photon. I thought it was really cool. I'm like James. I don't know too much about the character of Photon. Obviously, you kind of got vibes that she was gonna be transforming somehow to have abilities and powers as the show progressed. When they were like, "Oh, you got thrown out of the hex," this many like this distance, and you're still alive with nothing broken, and your blood work is coming back really weird. Like, so it's obviously like they're like, yeah, okay, they're gonna give her abilities.
You reckon it's gonna be like a mutation?
I don't know. I kind of hope it is, but like I've also
just
kind
think
of
that might be a cool way of kind of going, look,
Yeah.
mutants exist now because she's been mutated. And obviously we know that eventually we're going to get mutants. That's obvious. Apart from the
Right.
boner jokes, that's why they bought Fox. So, I just feel that. Sorry to interrupt. I just think I wondered if that's where you thought it might be going with the mutation side, because that seems to be what's happened to her.
I don't think they're going to go with like the full mutation of it yet. I think that that's still coming. I think maybe even the MCU doesn't really know what they're going to do yet until the time's right. I mean, Kevin Feige just announced that they're going to be doing a project called The Mutants. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think that's when we're going to learn a little bit more about that. And then I think they'll do it a different way. But the Hex, I think, is like a really cool thing to use as something for like fan theories. On Evan Peters, I really hope they find a way to make him not just Ralph Boner. Like, that is such a it's such a discredit. Like, it's funny and we laughed. I remember we were watching it and they were like, she's like Ralph Boner, and then he says Boner. Like, he laughs at it, and then when that happened, me and my girlfriend looked at each other like, wait, what? This is not happening. And because they give him the abilities of Quicksilver and everything is very confusing. So I'm really hoping that like they find a way to be like, maybe he is the missing person. Maybe he's in the witness protection program and under a different name or something. I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen, but you can hope. And then if they're going to rip open the multiverse, then hopefully they still find a way to bring Evan Peters or Aaron Taylor Johnson back for Quicksilver, because they got to get one Quicksilver back. Like, I want one back, whether it's one of the two. So I thought it was funny, but I also think it's like a huge discredit to the character that Evan Peters played in Fox to be brought over and then be made into a boner joke in a sense too. So I kind of hope they find a way to alleviate that a little bit.
Matt, is this the most amount of boner jokes you've had on this MCU podcast before?
Yes. Only slightly though.
Oh, right, okay.
What else? What other loose ends? Her children. I am gonna jump back on the Mephisto train a little bit with that. I do think I'm back on it. I'm still riding with Eric on that. I think that like it's a slow build. I think that there's a lot of signs that he's coming eventually. I mean, he has ties with King the Conqueror, who's been revealed that as being cast in the MCU, and Nightmare and all those guys. So with Multiverse of Madness. So I'm really hoping that we do get Mephisto. And I do think, because if you watch that clip, if you watch that scene again, you can actually see her like reading the Darkhold like it's no one's business. And then she hears the screams of her children, and then like her head turns a certain way. Like, what the heck? I thought we were done with this. You know what I mean? So I think that she's still being teased a little bit to like sway to one side or the other now that Agnes is kind of being trapped and out of the picture. So I do think Mephisto is going to be coming still. And there's been rumors that those kids have been on set of Multiverse of Madness too. So, or like at least been around where they're filming. So I think there's a possibility we're going to see something of them. So I don't think we're done with them. In terms of the final loose ends, I think with this show, I think it's interesting to see Wanda leaving the way she left and turning into the Scarlet Witch. And I think there's going to be a lot more revealed, because even Agnes said, you have no idea what you just did, when she actually becomes Scarlet Witch, and nothing is ever elaborated on in that. but like clearly Agnes has read that chapter and is like, you just made a mistake, or or did something good for Scarlet if she can.
Do you think that Agnes will end up being in the multiverse of madness, or do you reckon that the Agnes thing will be left for a while now?
I hope she comes back.
She's going to be. I think she's going to be.
I think hopefully she is in it, and it's kind of whether or not it's Doctor Strange or it's Scarlet Witch who go to get her to be like, what's going on here? Why is this happening? But I just don't know if it might be a bit too soon for. When's Doctor Strange out? Is that next year?
Next year, yeah.
Next year. So I don't know. Is it maybe too soon to bring Agnes back in? But I don't know. I just wondered, where you think she might fit in again, because she's definitely going to be back in it. Because I think the love for the character alone will bring her back.
I think she's such a misunderstood character at this point, and I think she's going to turn into like a Loki type character, where like she really does have some good intentions that like we don't really see. Like all we really saw in WandaVision is that she's like, you have all this power and you're using it to make breakfast for dinner. Like, you don't even know what you're doing, and you're stronger than I am. You know what I mean? Like, she genuinely doesn't respect that Wanda has this power and doesn't know how to use it. So part of me thinks that maybe she's not like fully evil and she just misunderstood to an extent. Like,
No, she is evil. She killed Sparky. Fucking hell! Like,
I mean, that is evil.
That could have been. It could have been a demon dog, though. You don't know. That could.
Well, yeah.
The real villain of the piece could have been Sparky. We don't know.
Sparky could have been Mephisto. Confirmed.
Yeah, it could have been Mephisto. To prefer what you're saying there about Agnes being a
Loki character,
being misunderstood. I think that's a good point, because what if Agnes was actually getting all these powers from Scarlet Witch, because she knows obviously Scarlet, because she knows Scarlet Witch can't control the powers and doesn't know what she's doing. Maybe she's actually holding Mephisto back. Maybe she's keeping Mephisto at bay, and she wanted as much power as possible to try and keep him there where he needs to be. Because he's obviously, over the past few years, he's been trying to find a way through different avenues to find his way into our universe. And maybe she's being like, you don't understand what you've done, because she's like, I'm the only one who can help you stop him. Like, don't do this. Like, you have no idea. Like, I've been keeping this world safe for so long. Like, not even Sorcerer Supreme could fucking do what I've been doing. So,
and one thing that was interesting too, like, I don't want to like take up too much time on it, was when Wanda like trapped her. Like, she said, you're gonna get the role of the nosy neighbor that you asked for, and she said, and I'm gonna know right where you are. Like, and she said, that's just cruel. Like you're not one of the good guys. Like, that's just cruelty. And like, you are seeing this new version of Wanda where like with Lagos, she goes into hiding in the Avengers compound and is like, I can't be seen by the public eye because I just accidentally killed people. Like, she actually feels bad. But then like at the end of this show, like, she just walks out into the townspeople and like talks to Monica and is like, it's not going to change how they look at me. Like, I feel like that's confident in her of like growth of her character.
Is that not just her character evolving from the shy, really upset with her powers to now going, well, actually, no, I'm the Scarlet Witch. I've got all these powers. I did do this to hurt people. I did it to change things. So maybe that's just a bit of character evolution.
That's kind of what I'm wondering too. Like, I do think it's a little bit of both in a way. Like, she is like, I can face my issues now, like, because I'm healing from trauma, and I feel like that is definitely the message that is being sent. I think she's still one of the good guys, but like, I think part of it's also like, I don't care. Like, in a sense, like, I know what I did, because she feels bad for what she did to the people, no doubt. But like, I feel like there's a new vibe to her character. Like, we see her having tea in the cabin, and then we see the back where she's Scarlet Witch reading the Darkhold, and you're like, whoa, hold on a second. Do you even feel bad for what you did? Like,
hold up.
That's where I'm at with it.
So that bit was a bit, you know, Doctor Strange manages to teach himself all this magic when he's asleep. I can't remember what they called it. Is that similar to what she's doing there?
It's astral projection.
That's what it's called. Yes, those are the words. I nearly said that, but I'm glad I didn't. I'm joking. I had no idea it was called that. But I think was that similar to what she was doing?
Yeah. She's obviously just. But the only difference is Doctor Strange is doing that when he was asleep. She's doing it when she's awake.
Yeah,
so she separated herself. Even so, maybe she's in another multiverse. They read in the dark holes, whilst obviously our Wanda's just knocking around and doing normal Wanda things, having a brew with asbestos hands, it seems, because she picked up that kettle, that boiling, what looked like a tin kettle, picked straight up, not asked.
Well, fucking shit.
Yeah, absolutely hard as fuck. So I'll tell you what, like, we don't really need to talk about the other post-credit scene because we all know what that's setting up. That's just Monica going up to the peak, isn't it, really? Going meeting, because obviously it's set before Far From Home. So that's probably Skrull being like, come on, let's go see our boy Nick Fury up there on the ship. Let me show you what we've been doing. And then obviously that's just going to tie into Captain Marvel 2 and Secret Invasion. So there's not really that much to elaborate on that, is there really? So I think what the best off doing now is taking a short break, and then what we'll do is we'll come back and we'll talk about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So see you in 2.
So Scott, as you may be aware, there's a bit of a lockdown on.
Yes, I had heard that.
Lots of people have suddenly got a lot of time on their hands and a smorgasbord of content to choose from to fill that time. How can people find the best nerdy content when there's so much out there?
It's difficult, but don't worry, I have developed a system to find the good stuff.
I'd love to hear it.
So basically, there are 3 criteria that all the best content contains. Animated characters playing in a sport, a team of misfits overcoming impossible odds, and the acting talents of Wayne Knight.
But what if people don't want to watch Space Jam on repeat?
What?
I've got another idea. How about a podcast from 2 down-to-earth guys discussing the best in books, films, comics, music, game, and TV series?
That sounds amazing. I'm in.
Excellent. What do we call it?
Into the Nerdiverse, I reckon.
I'd listen to that.
Damn right you would.
Hi there, guys, and welcome back. So we're here with part 2 of our MCU Disney Plus show discussion. So now we're going to talk about Falcon and Winter Soldier, which starts and premieres on the 19th of March. So that is this Friday coming, in fact. Not even next Friday, it's this Friday coming. How excited are we? I'm very excited. I'm not sure if you guys saw the clip that was released by Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie yesterday, or Friday, it would be whenever this podcast comes out. They showed an exclusive clip from the first episode, it looks like, and you can tell already that this show is going to be like, it's going to tick all the boxes for all the MCU stuff. It's going to be funny. There's going to be action. There's going to be cameos galore. It's going to oh God, I'm excited. I'm very, very excited. So we're going to talk about expectations, predictions, and what we'd like to see ourselves, like what, in our heart of hearts, what we want to see happen in this show. So let's go with James, you first. Right. So I want to know what are your expectations for the show? What are your predictions for what's going to happen, and what do you want to see happen?
I'm expecting it to very much be like the Captain America films. It's going to be a lot of fighting, a lot of exploding, a lot of action. It's going to be classic kind of MCU style. Lots of shenanigans going on. Little bits of comedy because, you know, the classic. I feel like they should be doing like the 90s sitcom with their arms folded, like back to back, looking at each going, this guy. I feel like that's what they should be doing. I honestly am not sure what I think is going to happen. I don't know, like the like what happens with the shit with the Captain America mantle after obviously it's passed on to Bucky. No, it's not, where it's not passed on to Bucky, which it should have been, if you ask. But that's, you know, it's a different discussion. So I don't really know much about what's going to happen in the program. I'm just hoping that there is some good action scenes, because it's going to be so different to what we've just witnessed with WandaVision, that it's going to almost be like a palate cleanse for MCU fans to get them ready for Loki, which isn't, I know is that till June. I'm most excited for Loki. That's the one I'm the most looking forward to, which I think a lot of people will agree, because that looks like it's going to be mad. And then I'm kind of expecting, you know, like the cameos, as long as we don't see Chris Evans at all. That's all I want. I don't want that, because that's going to take away from the point of it being Falcon the Winter Soldier. Apparently, I'm sure I've read that he signed a deal to do something else with Marvel. I hope that's not for years and years, because we've kind of signed off all the Captain America story now. So as towards what I'm expecting it to be good, because the trailers already look good. And it's going to be very much what I feel like Winter Soldier vibes, which if that's Michael's best film, he's going to be really looking forward to it. So Michael, what do you reckon is going to be like? See that smooth transition there, Matt? See that?
Man.
So swift.
Last time I was on your podcast, Matt, we talked about how excited I was for this project when we found out about it. We're like, yeah, they're doing a TV series of this show. Like that was all we got, And I was incredibly excited. Like I couldn't talk about this one enough. So my expectation for the show is like through the roof, like through the roof, whatever you want to pronounce it. Everyone's different. It's high. It's extremely high for me. I probably watched the trailers like 100 times. I'm not even gonna lie. Like I literally before we did this today, I was taking like notes on like what I think is gonna happen. Yeah, I'm stoked for it. And I think the beautiful thing about this show specifically is it's such a tough challenge to replicate the epicness of the character that Marvel have in Captain America and like what they're going to have to go forward with this show. And you were saying, that you didn't like that Sam got the shield. And I agree with you 100% to an extent but I think the MCU just diversifies itself so much different from like the comics sometimes, but they still stay similar.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a little bit similar in certain ways, but I think the reason why they didn't give it to Bucky is so that they could have this show for multiple reasons that we'll get into eventually. But also that like it's quoted where like when Cap was given the shield, he says you're a good man, and that's what Cap says to Sam. And I think the only reason it really went to Sam in the movies versus like in the comics was at this point in time instead of going to Bucky is because Bucky is still kind of like, even after the snap, I would imagine he's still kind of looked at as like maybe maybe a bad guy terrorist type guy, because
they could still snap kind of thing.
Right, he could still snap, and like he still hasn't gone through like a full recovery, I don't believe, and I think we're gonna see that in the show that Bucky is not ready for that mantle yet. Like I think he's eventually gonna get it in time, but like I don't think he's ready for it yet, because I think we're gonna see that Zemo can still get to him in the show, and I think that's why he's coming back. So yeah, my expectations are high. I'm very excited for the show. This is the one project that I have been like chomping at the bit for, so I can't talk about it enough. So I'll pass it off back to Matt here before I go on a tangent.
Yeah. So after the Super Bowl like game spots and little trailers that we've got, well, not little trailers, the actual full trailers that we've got, this one was the one I was least excited about, mainly because I think this one's going to be the most Marvel-y, and I'm looking for something a bit different, because all I've been talking about, when Kevin announced all these shows, was how different they're going to be for the MCU and how much of a different feel they're going to have. Obviously, WandaVision is going to be such a different thing, and then Loki, you can tell, is going to be absolutely mad, and it's not going to be usual MCU kind of content. And I think this one is going to be the most MCU style show. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the worst one or it's going to be bad, but it's going to be a lot of what we've already expected. But from what I've seen and what the directors and the writers have talked about, is they're going to be touching on quite a lot of actually important subjects. I know they're actually going to be talking a lot about race with some of this, and obviously the hardships that come with obviously a lot of with racial abuse and how difficult it is for African Americans to rise to prominence, which again, it's not the kind of usual route you'd expect Marvel to go down, but I believe that's what they're going to do, and that's what they're going to touch on in the show, which it's always
we're going to get a lot of that in Phase 4, though.
Yeah,
I feel like now that the world is changing and now everything, I think Marvel are going to be. I mean, we've got Black Widow coming up, so we've got another female-led main film and then we've obviously had Black Panther, we had Captain Marvel before that. So I feel like Marvel are going to push that boat out much more of trying to diversify things in the mainstream media anyway.
Yeah,
makes sense. Yeah, but I think that this one's going to be a bit more hard-hitting and a bit more real, and address some serious issues as you could probably possibly get with an MCU film. And it's got it's got the most mature rating of any MCU project as well. So it's almost on the cusp of it being of rated R. I think it's a PG
13?
13. Yeah, just like just below rated R.
I think I think you're right in saying all that, Matt. I think that like this show is gonna cover a lot of hard things, especially coming off of like, living in the United States. I think that like this election year was so difficult, and like just as an American, and like seeing how people like in our country and like try to like divide each other so much, like what kind of like political party you support. And I feel like that's gonna, and I don't want to get in politics, I'm not a political guy. I just think that that's what the show might dive into a little bit in terms of Captain America's shield. I think that like with him being gone, and obviously we've all seen that's the title of the first episode. It's called Rest in Peace, Cap. So I don't know what that means, and something tells me like maybe we are going to see like an old man Cap at like a funeral or something like that. I don't know. I feel like this is going to hurt a little bit, and I feel like the reason it's going to tackle some tough subjects like you're saying is because that shield is going to be trying to be passed around to like the wrong people. And what people don't understand is that shield was actually or the idea of Captain America was created by like a German scientist who told Steve Rogers, you're a good man, you have a good heart, don't change. And it wasn't even funded or created by like like the American government in the movie. It was actually like brought in from like Germany, so to make a super soldier. So I thought that was very unique and a different way of doing that. And I think that there's going to be a lot of themes in this show that just are hard hitting, and well, why should Sam Wilson get this shield instead of this guy like U.S. agent? Like these guys were on the Sokovia Accords, and they're not abiding to it because they rode with Cap. They were Cap's ride or die guys. Like when Civil War was going on, like in that movie, like they weren't going to sign the registration. Like they weren't going to. So I feel like this is going to be a very political, like government oriented show of like why this guy has a shield instead of Sam and Bucky. And I feel like in the trailers that we've seen, when we see Sam and Bucky not having the shield, I think that's when US Agent has it. And I feel like the government's going to take it away from Sam. And I feel like I took some quotes from the trailers. And I'll save that one for the predictions. But like Sam says how the legacy of that shield is complicated. What else did I write down here? I think that's like the best thing to leave it at for now, is that Sam saying the legacy of the shield is complicated, and I feel like he's talking to somebody like, or a government official, to be like, well, why should I give this up? You know what I mean?
It could even be the conversation he has with US Agent or Thunderbolt Roth, because obviously we know that Thaddeus Ross is going to be in the show.
Yeah.
But I think in relation to predictions, we might as well touch on predictions. So
sure.
I think prediction wise, I think we're going to start off with maybe a Captain America funeral, and then possibly the hand mask gang, whatever they are.
Yeah.
They kind of maybe ruin the funeral, and that's the reason why Sam and Bucky go after them. And then they probably make a balls up of it. Thunderbolt Ross goes, "You can't have that shield. You're not fit to do it. I've got a guy who's going to abide by the Sokovia Accords. He's going to take the shield. He's going to be our guy. You guys just go home. You're out. Don't break the Sokovia Accords. We don't want you." They're having to be pulled back in because this hand gang is causing all kinds of mayhem, and then lo and behold, the guy behind it all is Baron Zemo. Escaped because of the blip, probably most likely escaped because of the blip, and just managed to escape that way. And he's got a new gang that is helping him do what he wanted to do, which is take out superheroes. Don't like him, so he's going to go up against the new US Agent, the new Captain America, and Thunderbolt Ross's little team that he's probably going to try and form. But then ultimately, it's going to have to draft in Sam and Bucky to take care of it because they know how to do superhero things and to take Zemo down. And I think it's going to be a lot of laughs and lots of action involved. So that's my prediction for it. What about your prediction, James?
Probably, I think you're pretty much spot on with that. I think that it will obviously get to the point where the government say to Sam and Bucky, look, we need you to come back. And maybe Sam and Bucky say, well, we can't do it just us two. And that's maybe where we get like cameos from Hawkeye. Or we might
Rhodey is in this, by the way. Rhodey mixed cameo.
There you go. So Rhodey's going to be in it as well. Like Hawkeye and Black Widow as well. Oh no, she's already dead. Never mind, scrap that one. It's because of the film. I've got it in my head. But yeah, I think we're going to get something like those kind of cameos to kind of help them go forward. So yeah.
Well, it could be a Black Widow because if Yelena Belova becomes new Black Widow, then she could be in it. But to be fair, Yelena Belova, Florence Pugh's she's not been spotted on set for this one, but she has been spotted on set for Hawkeye. So we know she's going to be in it again. So he's probably going to get the Black Widow mantle. But I wouldn't have thought she'd turn up in this one. We're probably going to wait for Hawkeye to reintroduce her. But cameos, yeah, definitely. Don Cheadle's coming back as War Machine, and it wouldn't surprise me if other people were to make cameos as well, because we already know that Emily Vanderbeek, is that what she's called? Agent 13, Sharon Carter, she's in it, and also, what's it called now? Is it called Baron the Jumper, Badrick the Jumper? You know, from Badrock the Jumper. Yeah, he's in it from Captain America: The Winter Soldier. So there's definitely cameos and definitely callbacks. There's definitely a lot of them. What do you think is going to happen, Michael?
Like I started with saying, I think there's going to be a lot that happens in this show. I think that the line that we get in the trailer where Sam says, "A good friend of mine once said the price of freedom is high, and it always will be." I think this is going to be said in one of two things. I think he's saying it either at Cap's funeral, or I think that he's saying it because it sounds like it's recorded almost. I think that he's kind of given that speech because Cap's not there, and maybe there's something going on with like U.S. agent being a bad guy, and like he's trying to tell the American people, like, a friend of mine once said the price of freedom is high. I think it's going to be a callback to that exact moment where like those final moments of the movie where Cap says, I think it's going to be one of those, it could be one of those final moments in the show where like Sam needs people to like form together again and be like, hey, like, I know this is different, but like, you guys got to follow me. Cause like, even in the trailer, like Sam and Bucky say they need a symbol, they need something to stand behind. And like, I think that there's something that's going to elevate the situation. I think that we're going to see Wakanda. I think that Bucky's going to get a new arm from Shuri somehow, some way. And the reason I think that, because I watched the trailer a little bit before we start out here, I think that briefcase that's like silver and black is definitely from Wakanda or probably Shuri.
Yeah, that
Sam has. Like, even
does that mean Rocket finally gets his arm?
Rocket's gonna get his arm.
Oh God! Imagine if Thor 4, when they're on the ship, when they're on Milano, and if they've got like his arm like in like a frame, like next to his seat. That'd be such a great little pop.
Be like one of those those collector's
like,
shirt editions where it's signed underneath to my friend Rocket.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think U.S. agent's definitely going to be a bad guy. I think the government's just going to use him. Thunderbolt Ross is going to.
Is it going to be Hydra again?
Because I think it will. I think Hydra's not gone, like, at least yet. Like, I don't think Hydra's gone. I mean, that's a giant theme of like the Captain America films, and like, I think they're always going to be like trying to infiltrate something, and I feel like that's why Agent 13 is going to come into the show and be like, hey, like, I'm not working for like the government anymore. Like, but there's this agency called SWORD, like, because maybe she's already been recruited by Nick Fury to like kind of link up with these guys. So I don't think we're going to directly see Nick Fury in the show, but I think we're going to see Agent 13. I think the reason why you're not going to see like all these cameos that we want to see is because the Disney Plus series are supposed to like focus on these two characters primarily, and like or like with the characters of the show. And I feel like bringing, like you were saying, James, like bringing in a character like Chris Evans or an actor like Chris Evans for Cap is like taking the spotlight away from
that
those
massively
guys. Like they've had their moments, like they've had their big moments. It's now these like side characters opportunities to have the spotlight a little bit. And if you watch the Hot Ones interview that Anthony Mackie did recently, which was really good, you should go watch it if you haven't. He actually talked.
It was really good.
He spoke on like how difficult and how some of the best characters in movies are like the second, third, and fourth main characters, and like the supporting actor award at like Academy Award shows is so much more sought after because it's tougher to get. Like once your name is known as like a lead actor, like you start getting a lot of roles. Like Chris Pratt's gotten with Star-Lord and all the above, but like or like Leonardo DiCaprio, but like you're seeing like these guys that were like in the backgrounds of the shots and like having minor lines and like having bigger stories though, like they're now like having to take the reins over for this. So I feel like if those big cameos showed up, unless it's like a post-credit scene near the end or something like that, I feel like it really takes away the spotlight from those guys. So I think that there'll be ties to those characters that are going to lead to like the movies that come from Phase 4, and they'll kind of go back to their, I don't want to say respective spots of where I'll say the spots where they're normally at in the movies, like, or maybe like these shows elevate them to be at a higher level in the movies and have a little more importance because now they're like the leads leading into like the new Avengers or something like that.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot's going to happen. I feel like we're going to see Bucky get brainwashed because we see the knife fighting in the trailer again. He drops the bullets in front of Zemo in the trailer. I feel like we're going to see a lot of explanation as to why Sam got the shield instead of Bucky. And Bucky's going to get to use it. I'll say that. But I don't think I think he'll understand that, like, until he's clear in the head, and maybe that's why they go to Wakanda for Shuri to do that. And I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm excited.
Yeah, well, that again, all that sounds mint, and it all sounds very, very exciting. But I mean, we've only got less than a week to go until it arrives on our screens, and I believe it's 6 episodes, around an hour long.
Yeah.
So
47 minutes, I think, an episode.
Is it 47 minutes?
Yeah, something like that.
That's going to be awesome. Cannot wait. So, well, I think that pretty much wraps up the show for us here, guys. So, I want to thank you both for coming on again. It's been an absolute pleasure talking about MCU stuff with you both. Tell you what, James, why don't you tell the people what you're doing and where they can find you?
I do a podcast on TTYL Network at ColeyMania. We haven't been around for a little bit. We are working some things and might be back in the future. We don't quite know what's going on. So stay tuned to that if you like hearing myself and Reese talk about wrestling and swearing a lot and calling Jim Cornette a cunt. You can edit that bit out if you want that.
Keep it in, I don't like Jim Cornette.
No, fuck Jim Cornette. Reese, I got it in if you're listening. And you can find me on Twitter at Fight James Fight.
Nice, thanks. And Michael, do you want to let them know where to find you on the socials and what you do on the internet?
Sure, I can do that. So things have changed since last time I was on here. Mixer went down, so I'm actually over on Twitch now. Twitch.tv/the It's you don't have to capitalize or anything. It's just TheAvengNerd. And then at Twitter, it's at NerdAvenge. That's capital N, capital A, no spaces. And then I post like funny clips from like my Twitch stuff on Instagram, and we do like art streams and stuff like that where we color and draw and like copy a picture together. We kind of do like Bob Ross style. It's kind of fun. So if you send me your artwork in the Discord, and I'll go ahead and post it. But when it's my stuff, I actually post pictures and clips and stuff on Instagram at the AvengNerd 2020. It's pretty easy to find. And that's it. That's all I got.
Cool. Wonderful stuff. Thank you very much, guys. And for me, as usual, find me on all social media, ThatMCU Guy, apart from Twitter, which is ThatMCUGuyUK, YouTube, any podcast platform for this. On the YouTubes, I'm on the YouTubes. Also on TikTok, the British Spider-Man, which is soon going to become the MCU guy. I'm just doing a bit of building and networking before that happens. If you want to buy one of these lovely shirts, so I'm wearing my Jimmy Woo shirt and Michael's wearing his Captain America shirt. You can get them on the Etsy page. We've got some new designs up there. The WandaVision collection is on there at the moment. If people want to have a look at that, get yourself a new WandaVision t-shirt. That's it. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you guys, and we'll be back probably either later this month or early next month to talk about some of the big MCU news and probably discuss a few of the early episodes of Falcon and Winter Soldier. So thank you very much for joining us, guys, and thank you for you two for joining me. Say goodbye, guys.
Bye, guys.
See you later. Bye.
This podcast is part of the That Thing You Might Like network. Here's something you might like. Find us on socials at TTYL Network.